Alright, driver's side headers going in. Looks like everything's starting to clear. Little tip when you're putting headers in, just so you can start the two end bolts without having to fiddle with the gasket and everything. What I do is always take the end bolt and cut it open like that. That way you can just drop it in there when you got those two bolts started. A lot less hassle. Everything lines up. You didn't have to fight with the gasket during the header install. There we go. Alright, so I just gotta put the other four bolts in there and tighten them up, and then we can move on to something else. Alright, so the header's in there, fits nicely. Finally, a big headache gone. That was starting to stress me out. Move the motor back an inch and a quarter like I did. Fits great. Hopefully you guys are smart enough to order the adapters to do it, or the special motor mounts, instead of wait till the last minute and hack and cut and weld. But either way, results the same. I got it to fit. Everything's good. Alright, next thing I'm going to move on to is this little fitting here from Autometer. Part number 2268. What this is this is an oil pressure sensor adapter. So the little, where the sensor goes in back here, is 16 by 1.5 metric threads with a O-ring or crush washer fit. So what this does is adapt it to 1/8 inch NPT fittings. So then you can fit your regular oil pressure sensor, or like I have a mechanical gauge, I can fit the fitting in there to run the copper line into, and it works way better, save you a lot of hassle. It costs a few bucks for this thing, so don't be afraid to buy it. Alright, so I will get that installed and my oil pressure line installed on it, and then we will move to some AN fitting stuff. Alright, so I got this beauty mounted on here again. I actually got it bolted down this time. Put my little fuel log on there, and I made myself a little line here. Leave a little bit of room for flex and stuff in there. This AN fitting I had made, it was sitting over here. I flipped this around because it just can work better that way. Put this AN fitting on here. I didn't want to show you guys that because it's been almost a year since I did one, so I wanted to make sure I could do it. So I'll probably walk you guys through the next one. Having these stupid things makes it a lot easier, AN wrenches, so that you don't mar the fittings and stuff like that. And having the ones that go into the vise as well, the jaws, aluminum jaws for AN fittings, makes it way easier to deal with these and you end up with a beautiful looking hose instead of one that's all marred and looks like crap. So yeah, and then I also, over here, swapped out my fuel pressure gauge for a liquid filled one. The liquid, what it does is kind of acts like a shock absorber in there, and last year I had a lot of buzzing and noise from my fuel pressure gauge, and it drove me nuts because I wasn't sure what it was for a while there, and then I figured out it was my gauge, so I swapped it out this year for a liquid filled one. Goodbye noise. And yeah, so fuel system's complete and together. I just gonna have to tune that bad boy when I get this thing up and running. And I forgot, I'm waiting for 2 AN fittings for my coolant setup here. So looks like I'm on to doing some wiring. I'll probably get the rad mounted in here yet and go from there. Alright, so we got some more work done here. Plugs and wires installed. The coils are in their places. Just did a rough cleanup on them. Probably have to pressure wash the motor lately. You know, time crunch and everything. Everything can't be perfect at the moment. It's got to work. So, and then got all 8 of those done. So the plugs I'm using right now are just NGK Platinum plugs, MSD wires, and the factory coils. I use them on my other motor too, the exact same setup, and it'll rev to 7 grand, so I've hit that a couple of times. And then I had to do a little bit of fabricating on my stock, still using the stock throttle body cable. On the last carburetor, the Edelbrock that I had on here, I had a bolt through here welded, and that wouldn't work this time. But they had a little tiny hole here in the carb base plate, so I welded a little 5/16 bolt on there, just a short little tip of one. Just had to grind it off a little bit, and that seems to work. So nice and solid in there. And I gotta hook up the linkage, the springs. For those of you that don't know, the carburetor has to have a double return spring to pass tech, so that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, she's looking pretty good. I still got a pile of wiring and stuff to do, a bunch of odds and ends all the time. I should actually start making myself a list so that I can start remembering all this stuff instead of just picking something and going for it. But that's the way I'm rolling right now. So yeah, I got lots of work to do yet, and yeah, stay tuned. Gonna do a little bit more here tonight. Alright, so we got the carb linkage hooked up now. Stole this little stud here off of one of the other carburetors I had. And then my double return springs, both there, 1, 2. Mounted the rad in here again. The only thing I gotta figure out is, if everything works out the way I want it, I want the alternator mounted down in this area. The outlet here is going to come down, and I'll probably have to put the lower rad hose through between the belt, the top and bottom half of the belt. A little bit of a risky proposition, but I think that's the only way I'm going to make that all work. And then I went and mounted my 6LS box. So that box controls all my timing. There's 2 ways I can control it. One, I can grab a laptop and a little plug there, plug my laptop in, do my own curve. 2, underneath here, there's a little spot right there. You see that little black piece? Yeah, it's hard to see. Right. That's too dark. Alright, so there's a little black piece under there you can plug little tiny pills into, and they have pre-programmed different ignition curves on them that you can run. So this box basically uses the crank and cam signals off the engine to fire the coils at the right times, so no distributor needed. When this swap wasn't quite so popular, there was a big bracket you could put on the front here, would put a front mount distributor. You'd use a Ford style distributor, and you could run your ignition that way. I like this way better. The 8 individual coils allows you to actually get a lot more spark down to the fancy little NGK plugs I got in there. So we got that boy mounted up where I can easily access both ports if I want to. So I've got a bunch of wiring to do. That seems to be what I'm waiting for right now. Also, put the transmission dipstick in. Probably should have done that while I was putting the transmission in. Might have made it a little easier, but still snuck it in there not too bad. Got her mounted up, bolted down. But that's what we're dealing with right now. Just like that. So still got some stuff to tidy up, but a lot of wiring, and then some other little miscellaneous stuff. A lot of the big thing right now is the wiring. So I think that's going to be a job for tomorrow. I'm going to take a break. It's a little bit earlier than what I normally get out of here. It's about 8:45, so a little earlier than I normally leave, but what the hell. Need a little bit of rest here too. Go home, watch a little bit of TV, have a shower, and probably pass out probably before 10. Alright, so there you go, peeps. Got the motor in, got a whole pile of stuff put on and bolted to it today. Yeah, it looks pretty fantastic. Alright, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.